Hey, all. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Matt Darius, your Executive Director for Operations. Also in attendance, we have our SEDC Associate, Holly Hart. Today, we have Chris Eggleston. He's a captivating keynote speaker, a TEDx speaker, entrepreneur, and renowned court magician. As the community engagement leader at the Midland Institute for Entrepreneurship, Chris empowers emerging entrepreneurs through the CEO program, fostering community growth, workforce development, and economic development. So we're going to have Chris here for the next 45 minutes or so. We're going to hold all questions till the end. So if you'll just take note of what section of the presentation that you had a question, write your question down. At the end, we will invite you to either unmute or you can just type into Zoom chat your question and then we'll take care of those. So that out of the way, Chris, show's yours.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. This is my first SEDC webinar, so I'm excited about this opportunity to share with you today. And I'll jump right into things. But as we get doing that, hey, if you're available or able to, go ahead and type into the chat, who you are and where you're from. I'm always curious about who the audience is. And while you do that, I'll pull up my PowerPoint here. I'll get started here. The whole title of this today is The Youth Advantage, why young entrepreneurs are your secret weapon for economic growth. Come on. Sorry about that, little technical difficulty. Here's the big idea of today's PowerPoint, of today's presentation. And the idea is, what if revitalizing your community doesn't require recruiting big companies, but instead on investing in the entrepreneurial spark of your youth? So we're going to be focusing on that through the entire presentation. This presentation is for you, basically, if you're involved with helping to grow your community, to help seeing it thrive into the future, whether it's economic development, workforce, community development, involved with the chamber, no matter what role you have in the community, this presentation is for you. Next 60 minutes, we'll talk about why entrepreneurs drive community growth beyond just business in your community, how to transform your youth into community-involved, creative problem solvers. You'll hear the word creative a lot. Proven ideas for inspiring those youth entrepreneurs. And then I'll really dig into 5 foundational concepts and how to launch them as programs in your community. Imagine for a moment if you could wave a magic wand and create new entrepreneurs and businesses like clockwork in your community, while at the same time building a sustainable pipeline of highly skilled workers and entrepreneurs for your businesses. Entrepreneurs don't just own businesses, they work within businesses as entrepreneurs. Being able to connect your youth to your community and as business leaders, slowing your youth exodus, and provide a transformational learning experience unlike any other class that your students are currently experiencing. Oops, lost my share here. Sorry about that. All right, should be back going there now. All righty. How well does all of this work in the world? Well, I'll tell you a quick story about Shelby Hintersher. She's from Effingham, Illinois, and Shelby, during the time in high school, she got into high school, she had a dream, and her dream was always to have a bridal shop. She didn't know what to do, where to start. It was just a dream. While in high school, she was part of a program that helped to really show her that she was capable of actually turning her dream into a reality as a business. And it was because it was the business people in that community, especially, that were willing to engage with her, show her the path, teach her the things she needed to know. And the community as a whole was able to support her endeavor. So she has a thriving business as a bridal shop in a rural community that didn't even have a business like that before. So we're going to hear a couple more stories about that during the presentation. But let me tell you a little bit more about myself, because you're probably wondering, who's this guy talking to us? A little bit about me, my most important roles in life. Of course, there's a husband, a stepfather, and a grandpa, Chris, to 5. So if you happen to call me Grandpa Chris, I'd probably answer to that. My story is, as a 6-year-old, I became interested in magic. It was just something that, wow, this is fascinating. I really want to learn how to do this thing. And I wanted to learn it. And so I just started studying it. Santa Claus made the mistake of bringing me a couple magic sets for Christmas when I was 6. And it became the thing that I kept bringing back out of the closet. And I just became passionate about it. When I was 15, I did my first paid professional show and so I thought this is pretty cool. I can make money doing something I'm passionate about. So I set about and I figured out how to book gigs and I started doing shows first as primarily a pure entertainer, just doing magic, entertaining audiences. I quickly segued into being a magician with a message. So I started delivering messages within my programs, eventually evolved to being a speaker who uses magic within his presentations to help, make it more impactful. And that became a big focus. I used that to actually pay my way through Southern Illinois University at Carbondale, earning both my bachelor's degree in marketing and my MBA. And then I was full time in the entertainment speaking world for the longest time until about 2014. And that's when the CEO program started coming to my part of Southern Illinois where I live. And I just started visiting classes as a guest speaker, just sharing with those young people the things that I was actually sharing in front of corporate audiences, honing it and focusing it a little bit more on where they were in life. But it was the same types of things they need to know to be successful in life. And I'd always been passionate about helping young people become entrepreneurs. That goes all the way back to, when I was just starting out myself. I loved helping other people in this realm. So I've been a lifelong advocate for entrepreneurship and youth entrepreneurship. Then about 2019, Midland Institute was looking for someone to be in the community engagement role to help grow the CEO program to more communities. And my skill sets and passion for the program fit what they were looking for. So I joined the team as the community engagement leader. Most recently, I did do a TEDx talk titled Unlocking Entrepreneurial Magic, which actually details more of my story of how I got into actually speaking and performing and how my community helped me. During my time at Midland so far in 6 years, I've helped launch 30 CEO programs and counting. The reason I'm bringing that up is everything I'm sharing today comes from working with communities. I easily have probably talked to 1,000 or more business leaders and people within communities, whether in person in presentations or on the phone or Zoom, in at least a couple hundred different communities to launch those 30 programs. And I've learned everything I'm sharing today. I've learned and seen firsthand. I've heard it firsthand from people in those communities. And I think a lot of what I'll talk about today, you will see it occurring in your community as well. Real brief about the CEO program. It does stand for Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities. It first started in Effingham, Illinois, which is a community in central Illinois. The city of Effingham is about 13,000 people. The whole county is about 30,000 people. And they were experiencing what many rural communities and really any community can experience, and that was brain drain. So with several highly successful entrepreneurs in the community, teamed up with a very innovative educator to create the concept for CEO as a way to help stop that brain drain, that bright flight, that rural exodus of youth, if you will, and stop that and get them to realize what they actually had in their community, while at the same time building the entrepreneurial ecosystem with the best resource a community has, and that is its young people. After that first program was just trying to solve a problem in a local community, and then other communities started to say, hey, how do you do that? The Midland Institute for Entrepreneurship was officially formed in 2010 as a way to help other communities launch their programs. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and our whole mission is to help communities establish, launch, and operate long-term their own CEO programs. So we're long-term partners with every program. We're now up to 75 programs in 10 states involving 350 different high schools. I looked at the map and I wanted to pull the ones that are in the SEDC footprint and our programs there. We have Dickinson County, Kansas, which launched in 2019, along with Decatur, Morgan, Alabama in 2019, and Madison, Alabama the year later. Those two programs do sit up in the northern Alabama region in the greater Huntsville area. Then we have Hannibal area, CEO, which is about an hour drive north of St. Louis. Right along the Mississippi River, and then Perryville, about an hour south of St. Louis, also along the Mississippi River. And finally, Southwest Florida CEO, which is down in the Naples area. And now back to our main topic today. How do we take advantage of those entrepreneurs realize they are a secret weapon for growth in our community? Here's the problem. The traditional education isn't preparing students for today's economy. Communities are exporting their best young talent. Young people see opportunity everywhere, except in their hometown region. Social media does not help this at all. They're seeing all these great opportunities. Things look brighter everywhere else except in their hometowns. Business leaders cannot find soft skill ready hires. They need people with people skills, those skills that are not taught. Young people these days, they're living on their cell phones. They communicate with their thumbs. And youth disengagement and brain drain are continuing to rise. Youth just don't seem to be as engaged in their communities. Again, they're living on these electronic devices and they're not out in the real world in their communities like I was when I was growing up. So it's real important that we stop that disengagement. Some of the clues of this, if you hear this in your community, we can't keep our young people. Our students don't even know what jobs exist here, which is really a sad thing. And oftentimes their parents don't even know all the different businesses that exist in a community. The best and brightest leave and never come back. Our education system has been designed traditionally to get kids ready to go to college. They go off to college somewhere and then they decide they're going to take a career somewhere else, and they never come back with those skill sets to help their hometown community. High school grads aren't prepared for the workforce. Again, this is a recurring theme that I've heard in every community that I have visited or anyone I've talked to. They're always talking about this. Young people aren't ready to go into the workforce. They get straight A's, but they're still not ready for that workforce. And we're not connecting our education system to our economy. Luckily, seeing some of this start to happen better than it has before, but that's been, again, something that has occurred. We have this big disconnect that is causing that. Some key stats. I'm not a big statistics guy, other than I want to share these to show how important this is. As far as entrepreneurial activity in the U.S., 19% of U.S. adults are, in that early stage of entrepreneurship. I mean, they're thinking about it, maybe making some initial steps. Uplifting sign for us is that youth entrepreneurs, U.S. teens, 66% of them say they're likely to consider starting a business. And that's really good to see, because now if we know they're wanting to do this, we just have to make sure we provide the pathway for them to be able to do that. And that's, again, the focus of the rest of today. The sad part of this, though, is civic engagement and leadership is at an all-time low. Those young people are not engaging in their community. They're not voting. They're not being involved. And this is a sad thing to see in communities. There's a real disconnect. Soft skill readiness, already talked about that, but that is not a localized issue or just in rural communities or a few communities. This is happening nationwide. And again, part of that, again, is community connection. Are these young people truly connected to their communities? We hear about brain drain in rural communities, but it is happening in metro areas. I've been in a lot of metro communities talking about the CEO program, and those folks are having the same problem and think, oh, we got all this great opportunity here. But again, the young people are seeing the opportunity doesn't exist, that they don't think exists in their hometown. So why should we focus on youth entrepreneurship? It's about building a generation of problem solvers, not job seekers. It's one thing to have someone sit in a seat and fill a role in a business. It's a totally another thing to have that person bring real problem-solving skill sets to go to work for that business or to solve problems more broadly in your community. It also drives local economic development from within your community. The phrase, grow your own. It's also about increasing youth retention and community loyalty. Getting those young people to really see that what their community has and how valuable their community is. And when they start to realize their community really is a great place to live, work, and raise their families, they'll be more inclined to want to. Youth entrepreneurship also strengthens that cross-generational business education collaboration. It's about bringing business education and together, but we're talking about all ages. The more senior folks in the community that are running businesses and maybe have been for decades, they need to connect with that next generation. They're their future employees, customers, the additional business leaders in the community that are coming along. They need to be connected to those folks. They learn from each other. And again, getting back to civic engagement, where's your future leaders coming from in your community? They're going to come from these folks that are thinking entrepreneurially, that are engaged in the community. You need that long-term leadership, you need people that are going to grow up there and want to keep the community thriving into the future. The big benefit when you start focusing on all this is that it becomes a multiplier, not a one-off. The whole idea of what I'm sharing with you today is that, hey, this isn't just, hey, we'll just do one little program and that's it. by building an ecosystem, a variety of different things you can do to engage the youth and in the entrepreneurial sector. The whole idea is to create a system that's going to multiply over and over and over again, creating greater results for you from a little bit of effort now creates great long-term results. So let's go back to the very beginning here. What is an entrepreneur? Well, Oxford defines an entrepreneur as someone who takes a financial risk to start a business. Well, I kind of disagree with that definition. I see an entrepreneur as something more magical, pun intended there. An entrepreneur creates solutions to problems and creates value out of opportunities. They solve problems for people and create value for people. Everything an entrepreneur does is focused on other people, helping them with problem solving and value creation. The short way to describe this, they're problem solving value creators. Now, by that expanded definition, that means you can be an entrepreneur in your own life when you solve your own problems because you're applying a mindset. You can solve problems in your family, in your community, within organizations that you're part of, is what we would call an intrapreneur. And then, of course, there is the level where someone does start the business and becomes that true entrepreneur who is trying to bring their solution to a broader marketplace. But when we get back to the entrepreneurial mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset applies to really anyone can apply it. Business owners, of course, in providing their solutions to the marketplace, but business leaders and helping their business, helping their community, all kinds of community leaders, creating new ideas and new ways to help solve problems in the community, bring added value. As entrepreneurs, those who are in businesses, business owners, managers, they want to hire people with that entrepreneurial mindset as an entrepreneur because they're wanting to improve their businesses. You need that mindset inside your business. And of course, volunteers in your community. You need people willing to volunteer and bring new ideas to help improve your community. You need people to sit on your boards, to do literally the manual labor at events and other activities, to be part of things that you're trying to build in the community as volunteers who are bringing that entrepreneurial mindset to help with that. Amelia Rodriguez is an example of that. Amelia had a dream to want to be an interior designer. She started an interior design business as a high school student as part of her entrepreneurship program. And that's what she wanted to do. And so she was going to go off to college, and she did, to study interior design. Well, she always thought she was going to have to leave her community, leave it, and to have the career that she wanted. But during the course of her time in high school, when she was in her entrepreneurship program, they visited a business that was a cabinet design business. And they designed custom kitchen cabinets and shipped all over the world with their cabinetry. And she realized, you know what? I can come back and work here, and I can stay in my hometown. And she would have never realized that if the community didn't have a methodology for connecting those young people to all the different businesses that exist in the community. Little add to her story, after working for that company for a couple of years after college, she was still doing her interior design on the side, and that company focused on kitchen and cabinet design. And she put together a business plan. She ended up proposing it to the company owners, and next thing you know, they adopted it, and then she added an additional profit center as a true entrepreneur by going to work for that business. Throughout the presentation today, I'm going to focus on 3 E's you're going to see as the core concept, the core straight line through this entire presentation. And 3 E's are this. When you want to engage with the youth entrepreneurship, the first thing is to engage. You have to connect with those young people. You have to get your community to connect with those young people. Show interest in them, show interest in their ideas. There's a great quote from a book by Harry Beckwith that says, "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care." So you really have to connect and engage with those young people. Next part of this is to educate them. Young people, we had the statistic earlier, 66% are thinking about starting a business, but they don't know how to do it. It's important as a community that we try to educate those young people on actually how to do that. Can we provide tools and resources, guidance, mentorship, all different types of support to help make sure they know what to do and how to do it and how to best help them. And when I say educate, this isn't just relying on the local school system to do this. This is a community side has to get involved with this to help truly educate these young people. Teachers teach great things, but business people are out there living the business life in the business world, and they can really bring insights that you can't get from a classroom or from a textbook. And overall, you're trying to empower those young people. One of the key ways to empower any entrepreneur, any young entrepreneur, is to actually buy their product or service from them. So if they're offering something for sale, can you actually buy it? A great thing to do if you're in your community and you're driving down the street, you see a couple young people with a lemonade stand. Why not stop and buy a lemonade from them? You don't have to drink it, by the way, if you're concerned about the quality or how it might taste, but just buy it to support the fact that they're out there actually trying something entrepreneurial. If you have, we had a big snowstorm one year, and a couple of young men came by and said, "Hey, can we clean your driveway for you?" I said, "How much?" And they gave me a ridiculously low fee, and I said, "Go for it." And I paid them double what they asked for. I wanted to do it as much just because they were willing to bring some shovels and walk down the street and offer to do it for us. And I don't know how many driveways they cleaned that day, but rewarding that kind of effort is important. Further empower these. If you can't buy from these new businesses, though, hey, can you help promote them? Can we help show your support for those young people and the businesses that they're doing? Also, can you look at pathways for those who want to really grow their business? Can you find other resources for them, including financial, to help them have that financial backing to take their business to the next level? I'll tell you a little of my story, and I related this in my TED Talk. When I mentioned I did my first paid professional show when I was 15, but what really happened is my mom came home from a club meeting, and she said, "My club president is going to call you. And we're trying to hire a professional magician, but we can't afford one." So next thing you know, I booked my first paid professional gig as a referral from my mom. But getting back to the 3 E's, this is the important part. Those women in that club were willing to engage with me, a 15-year-old kid who could do a few magic tricks, to actually do a show. So the next thing, as far as education, I'd always been an avid reader. So I was lucky that magicians had written books, not just on how to do magic tricks, but how to do a good show and how to book gigs, which became very valuable in the future. And then, of course, being empowered. Those ladies empowered me by booking me for my first paid gig. Further, they booked me in future years as well, but they also referred me to other people. Some of the people in the audience actually booked me for events they were planning, and the word started to spread in the community, and the community started to do the same thing. So my success started locally with my community being willing to engage. Educate was a little less, doing that more on my own, but they really empowered me by taking a chance on me and giving me a chance to go on stage, be bad in order to get good. And that helped me open up so many avenues. I realized that, hey, I could actually make money, have a business as a magician and a speaker, and eventually that grew into a full-time occupation. So the positive long-term impact of doing this is immeasurable. This is the one CEO story and video I'm really going to share with you today, because it really makes a key point. So you'll hear Michael in this story talk about CEO, but really pay attention to the things he's saying in between mentioning CEO, because this is what you can cause to happen in your community.
The exchange was a way to bring people, forward thinkers, creators together. I had purchased this old building, and it used to be a bank, so it was the exchange of money and goods, and now hopefully it can be the exchange of great ideas and community. My name is Michael Brummer. I was an Effingham CEO student from 2009 to 2010. The one thing that I've always remembered and took with me from CEO is how much the community cares, how much they're willing to invest in the students in the class, and how much they're willing to give to the students of themselves and help them out, and the relationships that you build with those community members. I think I always knew I wanted to move back to Effingham, and so how could I do that in a meaningful and impactful way? What could I take from things that I had seen in the city and bring back here and help improve the community and the life here? And I saw that, and I've seen that done well in larger markets. When I go visit co-working spaces and you see these creative people lifting each other up and growing together and challenging each other and collaborating. And that's what we see the exchange being today. I wonder, as a community, where's our future going to come from? Who's the next generation of people that are looking to push forward and continue us moving in the right direction? And I'm hoping to help foster that here.
So think for a moment about the impact of Michael's story. The full story of that, it focused on the exchange, which is this co-working space, which fills the ground floor of that building. But the first development he did is he turned the second floor into 4 apartments, which are now Airbnbs. And the ground floor or the basement is now the Week Penny Speakeasy. So once what was a vacant building in the community, someone with an entrepreneurial spirit, entrepreneurial mindset, and the support of the community that was developed during his time in the CEO program inspired him to do this in his hometown. The result is he has 3 thriving businesses that attract people to the community, drive revenue in the community, employ people in the community, generate tax dollars in the community, and he supports the community more broadly, like most small business owners do in their hometown communities. They're the ones whose names you see on the youth sports leagues uniforms, are the ones who are sponsoring events in the community. They're the ones getting involved in the community on boards and organizations helping to improve the community. I'm going to run through now some really quick ideas. I like to give a little overview, and then I'll go deeper on 5 ideas for you and give them some step-by-step details of this. By the way, for those of you taking notes, I do have a PDF available after the presentation that actually highlights all of these things. So if you don't want to have to take all the notes, you don't have to. I will gladly send you the PDF. I broke this down into 3 categories. So first, as business leaders can do these things on their own. There doesn't have to be a formalized program to do this, although that's helpful. One thing a business leader can do is offer to speak in the schools, in the classrooms. That's key thing. Easy enough to do. Go to the school, say, hey, I'd love to speak to some of your classes. There's classes, there's clubs, organizations that are always looking for speakers in these schools. There's teachers embracing it. So if you offer yourself as available, you can get inside those classrooms to help impact those young people. Be willing to open your doors, offer tours as businesses. Say, hey, if a class wants to come visit or a club after school wants to come visit, I'm glad to show them my business, what we do, and engage and connect with them. Offer to mentor students. This is powerful. This creates such an additional connection. It's not just they know a few people, but they get to know a business leader, another leader in the community really well. Mentoring students is a great connection tool. And then hire or offer internships to these young people. And I want to add one little element about this. Whether you're hiring someone or interning them, think longer term. What I mean by that is if you hire someone, for instance, they get hired to work in your restaurant, as a server. Well, the training you do should go beyond just, hey, here's how you get the food to the table. Train them in customer service and connecting and in team building. Train them in broader skill sets they can take forward no matter what their career is. Same thing with internships. They're not just there to shuffle papers and sit in the seat and do busy work. A true internship has to get those young people to understand a variety of different roles within a business, get to spend time with everybody from the CEO to the custodian and every role in between. They need to really understand the business at a higher level. Brought school leaders into this. This may seem silly as far as this is an economic development webinar, but who spends the most time with the young people in your community? They're in your schools 180 days a year, 6 to 8 hours a day. They're the ones directly connected to your young people. So engaging with your school leaders is critically important to all of this. They have access to your market, to your target market, if you want to use the business term. But in schools need to embrace entrepreneurship classes. Critical piece of this, and more luckily are starting have entrepreneurship classes within the school. Business and entrepreneurship clubs. This is something from the economic development side that you can actually help to support from afar, but the school leaders themselves need to embrace those, make them an important part of the school. Need to recognize business success like academics and sports. If you have a successful young business leader in the community, you need to recognize them. There's awards nights for academics and there's award nights for sports, but can you include those business recognitions in there as well? And this is something you can do as from the economic development side. Can you help assist with that recognition? And the school focus has to be on creativity, innovation, and risk taking for all grade levels. This can start as young as as kindergarten, first grade. They can start having that mindset. Young people are especially creative. Tragically, the school systems they educate that creativity and innovation out of them and get them to focus on doing things a certain way, getting them focused on test taking and grades over actually being creative and being innovative. And now from an economic development and workforce standard, great program is any kind of CEO or entrepreneur in the classroom. This is a little more formal than just business people visiting the school. This is where the schools need your help. They may be willing to open their doors, but they don't have time to get the business community engaged and organized to do this. And this is where in economic development, you have a key role. You have the connections in the community. You know all those business people. Can you get them to sign up to do a half day or a day in the school? Get a list of 30 or 40 of those that will go in, once a week. You have a different speaker go into at least a few classrooms and connect with those young people. This is a powerful tool that you can use. Industry tour days. You're probably already doing a version of this. I see it in a lot of communities, but I want to take it to another level. The standard program I see is you get whole bunch of for instance, the juniors or seniors in high school, you put them on a bus, they go visit 5 or 6 of the top employers, spend, 30, 40 minutes at each one and get a tour. But there are a lot more businesses in your community than just the top employers. There's the small businesses, and they're also very industry specific. So I want to encourage you, if you're doing this already, to consider some very specific industry focused days. Do you have a healthcare day? Do you get those students who are really interested in healthcare fields and go give them a tour of 5 or 6 different healthcare related businesses or organizations in the community? Same thing, financial. Of course, there's banks, there's financial planning organizations. They can get to a variety of different people in that realm of the world. If you're in an ag world like I live in, hey, can you tour several ag businesses, everything from livestock to growing crops, and let them see the full operation of those so they understand what those businesses really do. But consider broadening those things out. Pitch competitions go great, giving out these young people an opportunity to actually highlight their ideas and things that they're wanting or trying to do. And right along with that are things like youth business expos, giving these young people an opportunity to actually display and sell their products or services. I was at a conference one time, and they had set up out on the street. They had a whole bunch of youth entrepreneurs out there selling their stuff. And it was everything. I think the youngest was in 4th grade all the way up to some high school students. And they were all demonstrating and displaying things. Usually it was things they created themselves. And some of them actually had full-blown businesses going with them. They were just there to, literally show off their business. Now, those are some key highlights, but I want to go a little bit deeper on 5 really concepts that can really tie back into some of the challenges that communities face. The first I'm going to call beyond the pitch. This whole idea of this is to help develop that entrepreneurial mindset in young people. So you're trying to teach them to think like entrepreneurs. You want to be curious. You want to have critical thinking. You want to take initiative, be resilient. It's not just about an idea, but it's about developing this real mindset. The activity I propose for you with this is what we call the Mindset Pitch Challenge, where students identify a real problem in the community, a real problem that exists, and they pitch a solution path. It's not a product yet. It's a path to trying to solve that problem. You're trying to get them to think in the idea of being a problem solver, a creative problem solver. Again, I'll share these steps in the PDF afterwards, but here's some of the key steps to initiating that in your community. First off, you have the students introduce the 5 core traits. You can pick out different traits if you wish, but here's 5 I recommend: resilience, creativity, initiative, curiosity, and adaptability. Focus some mindset-focused storytelling sessions with either alumni of the program or especially entrepreneurs in the community. Have them sit down with these students and tell their story about how they came up with their business, their idea, and how they grew it. Let them see those different ideas and have multiple different speakers talk about this. Facilitate a mindset pitch day where the students can pick out a problem, propose solutions, and tell you what the first steps would be to solve the problem. So again, they're not selling a product yet, but they're proposing, identifying the problem, proposing the solutions, and identifying the steps they need to take to put it into action. Then you evaluate it not on, hey, is this a good idea or not, but what's the thinking behind it? Did they do some critical thinking? Did they take initiative? Did they take problem ownership? That's what you're really looking for in this particular exercise. And then offer reflection and coaching for growth, not perfection. One thing about entrepreneurship, no one is perfect at this. So there's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as perfect in economic development either. It's constant level of growth and trying to be better. This next one is, we'll call it learning on location. And this is really about that real world immersion, getting those students better connected to your community. So to do this, you have to get them out of the classrooms, out of the schools, get them into local businesses. Site visits are a great way to do this. And this is beyond like the industry days I mentioned earlier. You can have site visits. Students can spend some level of significant time, an hour or 2 hours in a business, learning directly from those business people, really seeing how those businesses work in much more detail. They're typically smaller groups, so that way students can spend a little bit more time and have more interaction with those business leaders. You might call this an entrepreneur field day. And you can take a group of students, have them rotate through a variety of different businesses. If you have your downtown, take them through and have them visit 5 different businesses in smaller groups. One of the neat things, if you start to think about your business leaders, many of them love to do this. They want to help that next generation. So usually finding volunteers to do this is not as hard as someone might think. So here's the key steps here. Find those 4 to 6 businesses willing to host some visits like that and engage with the students. You can build a tour passport for those students or a worksheet with some questions they should consider asking these business leaders on those business visits, so they can check off and even take notes. You start with those small student groups, rotate them through. Yeah, and with a Q&A panel, and bring everybody back together. Get all those business leaders that they were engaging with, get them on that panel and have a greater discussion, give the chance to ask questions. I don't know about you, but oftentimes after I learn about something, I usually come up with a question way later, and this gives an opportunity for them to ask those and for the broader group to hear those questions and answers, and then have them write down what they learned. Writing it down, even though we think kids don't like to write much these days, doesn't have to be a perfect essay, by the way. Write down what they learned and what they got out of those business visits, that engagement. Built, not bought. The idea here is for students to create something, get something going quickly, take ownership, and help them build their autonomy. You're giving them freedom here. This is where the students are taking control of something. They come up with the idea and they're going to put it into action as a product or a service. This is really letting them take control. I'll title this Pop-Ups Ventures Sprint, where they launch a micro business in under a week with real customers. Again, real life stuff here. A great way to do this. Here's your steps. Seed each team. You can do it as teams or you can do it as individuals, but seed each team with $25 to $50. Set short time frame for them to plan, execute, and report back on this. Require a simple business plan and permission form. Permission forms can be important if you're working with young people, but they do a basic business plan, what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. They do all the marketing, the pricing, the selling, everything about it. They get to decide on, and they get to see what worked, what didn't work, what surprised them. They need to reflect on it. Again, they can go back and journal on this. They can write reports on it, exactly how it worked. And it's great also to share in groups. Big problem that you heard expressed, young people are leaving. They don't want to stay in their communities. How do you do that? Create some community embeddedness. You have to help students see themselves as part of and future leaders in their hometown's economic and civic system. This, again, another part of this, get them to realize that they are part of this community. Young people feel disconnected. They feel like they're in school. That's all they do. They're over here on one side, and the business, the rest of the community is over there. Need to bring them together. They are a critical part of the community. They're living there. They're working there. They're probably driving a lot of economic activity there, either because of the things their parents are having to buy in the community for them, or the things the young people are actually doing themselves. A great activity, and I've always loved this one, is a community problem hackathon. You get the students to partner with local leaders to address real challenges in the community, and they can be as creative as they want. Before I share some steps, here's a great way to do this real simply. If you have a group of students, it could be a class in the school, it could be a club, doesn't matter. Have a group of students, show them an empty building in your community and say, here's our building. Give them a tour of it, show them the building, and say, if you could put anything here, what would you put in this building? And let them work as a group. Don't give them more guidance. Don't try to sway it anyway. Let them use their own creativity to come up with what would go inside this building. It'll be amazing what those young people will come up with as an idea or ideas for that building. You can do the same thing with an empty piece of ground in the community. Hey, we have this empty lot. What would you do with it if we could tell you could do anything you wanted to? Let that spark their creativity and be able to share the ideas. Afterwards, part of this process, first step, you start with a listening session. Also, you can have the business leaders and civic leaders share, hey, here's a problem. Here are problems or problem that we have in our community. Let the students pick out the ones they want to help solve. They can build teams, and they can propose different solutions that they want to provide for any of those problems in the community. They come back later, present it to a panel of community members and leaders. And then if there's an idea that your community leaders are willing to embrace and support, that's when you go the next step. Can you mentor them? Can you provide seed funding for their idea? Provide internships so they can work with organizations that might take the lead on their ideas. But getting them involved, letting them realize they're important by actually listening to them. And if at all possible, try to do some of the things, incorporate the ideas that they're recommending. Another part of this is called path, not a prize. Entrepreneurship is really a life pathway. It's a life way of thinking. It's about being that creative problem solver in everything that you do. You're trying to get that mindset. One of the things we hear young people complain, well, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. And that's where it stops. We have to shift that mindset. So if they're going to think that way, we have to shift it. We go, okay, I can't do that, but how can I do that? We have to get them thinking how to overcome the problems and challenges. Again, in their life, their families, their community, and of course, in the business they work for and in businesses they might start. It's not about competition, although oftentimes, you have things like pitch competitions that have a competition element, but it's about really applying that mindset. Great exercise for this, great activity is the business skills boot camp. Where, you could have weekly sessions for this, where youth entrepreneurs and leaders get together and they're sharing with each other, they're learning from each other. You have the business leaders in the community, experts in different areas, teach things like networking, negotiation, marketing, management, whatever it is, production. You can have all of that shared by business people, not by teachers or from textbooks. So they're doing that. You can have mock interviews, role-playing scenarios for them to try to apply that entrepreneurial mindset in different situations. A lot of feedback sessions. You can have the other students help feedback and help each other. That's a real dynamic thing when they start helping each other, because they realize the importance of teamwork and helping other people and giving back. And then, of course, they need to assess themselves. Hey, how are they growing? Are they actually learning? And journaling is a great methodology for that. And here's kind of a bonus concept for you, is take multiple ideas, put them all together, and you're building a community building entrepreneurship ecosystem as you combine all of those. Again, back to a point I made earlier, it's a multiplier, not a one-off. You start to build these things in your community, you get long-term benefits from it. Again, everything I shared with you is about engaging, educating, and empowering that next generation. So keep that focus on any idea you want to try. You can be as creative as you want. I gave you a few that try, but focus on educate, engage, educate, and empower. This was a quote from Craig Linval, who was the first facilitator of a CEO class. He was that innovative educator I mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation. And this quote of his carries on. It's amazing what young people can accomplish if you let them own their work, own their behavior, and be responsible for what they do. They're really, truly amazing. The things they come up with, the creativity they do, the questions they'll ask. This is really powerful. Harness that. Let them have an outlet for it, support it, help it, develop it within them, and they'll go on to do great things in your community. Now, I've given you a lot of ideas today, and I've thrown a lot of things out there for you to consider, things you could actually put into action, right after this call. But where do you start? Number one is a commitment to youth entrepreneurship. Make it part of your strategy for growing your community and economic growth. You have to be committed to it. If it's going to be part of it, commit to it as individuals and as organizations in your community. Build a team. One of the keys to this is a community. These are community initiatives, not a single person organization's mission. So anytime, and we do this with CEO, but anytime you're going to develop something like this, you need the community as a whole engaged. So economic development, your chambers, workforce, local school leadership, higher education institutions, of course, business leaders of all type, from solopreneur to large employers. You need to get a team of people from those groups to work together on this. It's not about one organization getting glory or one person getting glory. It's about getting the community to get real results over the long term. Big secret of this that I've learned over the years in building CEO programs, especially, it's about specific people, not about specific organizations. Different organizations have roles and have connections, but you have to find the people who really care about giving back to the community, helping the next generation, and really care about the community's future, and are also willing to put in some work to help make these ideas come to fruition, to get them into action so they start producing results. Quick thing to do, out of all these ideas today, discuss the different, bring some people together, discuss the different ideas, choose one. Don't get caught up. We could do this, 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 and this. Pick out one idea, make a plan on what you're going to do, make specific targets, have a very detailed timeline of how you're going to put that plan into action, get people committed to taking different action steps. So get that broader group engaged in getting this done, meet at least monthly on this to check your progress, stay focused on the deadlines, and get something launched. You can sit and plan all day. There's the old saying of paralysis by analysis. Don't do that. Get an idea, get it into action, start getting results from it. And then rinse and repeat after that. So you try to get a quick success, evaluate the results of it, get feedback from everybody involved. Hey, ask the students what they thought of it, get the community feedback on it, get your team's feedback on it, install improvements if needed, and then, hey, add another model to the overall strategy so you can incorporate something else you heard during today's presentation. Another big secret, stay focused on keeping these efforts community driven. Okay. One of the things is oftentimes education institutions start to take over, say, hey, these are our kids. We'll just do it as a class. We can do it within the school. And you start losing the community, in particular, the business community involvement with any of these efforts. You have to keep them engaged and involved. The business community does care, but you can't push them aside. They have to be part of this entire process. They're helping build the ecosystem because they're critical to the ecosystem. So your future. Imagine your students running real businesses, your employers mentoring future hires, and your community gaining momentum because you invested in the people already there. Classic business axiom, it's easier to keep a customer, even an unhappy one, than it is to get a new customer. This applies the same way here. It's easier and less expensive to help get your young people engaged in the community and keep them there or get them to want to return after college or maybe some other short journey in life to get them to stay in your community or come back. But it all comes because you're getting them engaged. End result of all of this, you have a community building, youth-focused entrepreneurship ecosystem. I do have a free gift for you. It's a PDF of all the key content. I'll give you a couple ways you can get it. First off, up on the screen now, you can scan that QR code, or you can go to the links listed there, talk.ac, https :talk.ac/Chris Egleston. You can go to that link. Also, I will put in the chat here in just a moment. I will put all my contact information so you can just link with that. If you go scan that code and fill out, answer the questions that are in there, it will actually automatically send you that PDF. If you prefer to do it a different way, I'll bring up my contact info on the screen. Like I said, I'll put this in the chat in a moment. My contact information, feel free just to email me. If you just want to say, hey, SEDC PDF, I'll know what you're talking about, and I'll send you the PDF of all the ideas and the step-by-step details of it for it. If any of you want to know more about the CEO program in particular and how it operates and more details about it and how we work with communities with a proven model and all the tools and resources, you can go to discoverceo.com, check out a little bit more about that. Or again, just give me a call or email me, and I'm glad to set up an appointment and connect with you to give you all the details about that program. Or I'm always glad to answer any questions about anything that I shared today, feel free to reach out. I'm part of SEDC. I'm part of your network. I want to help each of you. I believe, you help people and great things can happen. So I'm all about that. So don't hesitate to ask questions. If I can send another resource or anything like that, I have a lot of tools and resources. Only so many you can share within an hour presentation. So we'll take a moment now to ask for any questions, and I will stop the share here and I'll share my contact in the chat so you'll have it.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. I know that if I had some of those programs in my high school, I would have been so excited to participate and like brainstorm with my peers about what we could do in a community. So that was awesome to hear. So if there's questions or if you want to pop them in the chat, I'll read them off to Chris and we can answer those for you.
I'll answer one while we're waiting here that isn't there. But oftentimes people say, how much does do things like this cost? Then the wonderful thing is a lot of these things do not have to cost a lot of money for your community. It's really more of a people engagement. You'll notice that theme was throughout a lot of this. It's really connecting, engaging. It takes people support. Now, of course, there's a cost to people support, but you don't have to go out and, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to build a program like any of the ones I mentioned today. Some of those are very low cost. Yeah, there's a cost if you transport goods, use bus cost, et cetera. But, and you have to have some adults in charge of those things. But oftentimes there's a lot of volunteers in the community. If you're doing good for young people, and you're doing good for the community, a lot of people will donate, they'll donate their time, talent, and treasure to help with this. But you have to have people drive it and you have to someone keep everything on track. So the cost doesn't have to be exceptionally high. If you're a cash-strapped organization or cash-strapped community right now, hey, get the people power involved in this.
We do have a question. I'll read it off for you. So Greg, thank you for the question. So his question is about high housing costs in his community, because many of those schools prevent young people from staying in the community. Any ideas or feedback to keep students here after school?
That's I'll give one idea here in a moment. It's probably a little bit out of my scope. I haven't dealt in the housing area, but one thing that I would consider something I actually kind of mentioned is ask the young people, what kind of housing do you need? Get feedback from them, tell them this problem, see what they come up with in your community. They know your community really well. So yeah, that is a tough challenge. Housing costs, keeping them there. We operate, we have called programs that are in high cost, CEO programs that are in areas that have high cost. So it becomes harder for these young people to stay in those communities. That's unfortunate to see. That's a bigger problem that I can help you solve today. But again, I would talk to the students, talk to them about this problem, see if they have ideas on how it can be solved.
Hey, all. Thanks very much for that question. Tag it back in here for Holly. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question, or go ahead and type it right into the chat. We'll give you about another minute here. Okay. No more questions. Chris, thank you so much for presenting today. We really appreciate your insight and sharing your experience with our members. For those of you who were on the call today, we will be posting this to our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to review any information that was presented today, or share it with your peers, please feel free to do that. Simply, Google SEDC YouTube, it'll bring you right to our channel. Please like and subscribe everything so we can get that engagement and bring you more awesome videos like this. So thank you all again, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.